Welcome. We're live. Welcome to GSN-DB Going Solo Network Radio. I'm your host of the Barbershop, Dr. Christopher Salute. Super excited to hang out with you today. It's been a minute. CC. CC's down on the bottom, running the ones and twos. We just had our boy and girl thing show earlier. Well, we're talking about the Barbershop tonight. It's been a minute since we've been on WGSN. I think we started the year without any shows. CC was on a cruise. I was not feeling well. I had other obligations. So here we are. Super excited to hang out with you today. This show is, of course, brought to you by Bold, Fatty Plus, WGSN, all the wonderful things that we do, all the coaching that CC and I do. Call us up. We have so much to offer you. I mean, books and coaching and all sorts of fun stuff. What's going on with me? Life's doing pretty good. Job's great. Relationship's great. Bold is great, or as great as it can be. I'm just, I'm doing a million things. So what are we going to talk about today? Today we're talking about, as I pull it up on TikTok, today we're going to talk about why I hate New Year's resolutions and why I think that they don't work. And I think that a lot of folks would probably agree with me, but let's see if you do. So this all kind of came out. I was chatting with my therapist, and she's like, "Hey, tell me some of your New Year's resolutions." You want to know something? I don't have New Year's resolutions, and the reason that I'm not a big fan of New Year's resolutions, and we'll talk a little bit about that, is I think that it's too big of a change fast. Let me give you an example. So my dog, Joker, gets into some food or into some garbage, and he really makes my life a living hell when that happens. I got to clean up the whole house. If I had decided to give myself a New Year's resolution to not kind of lose my temper and put him in the crate and get all upset about it, and be a jerk, I look zesty. Thank you. Appreciate you. If I had done that as a New Year's resolution, I'm just going to change the way I behave around Joker and not, be a jerk when he gets into the trash. There's no way in a year I'd be able to do that. No way in I don't know, 2 years, right? But definitely not in a month, right? You usually want to have your resolutions going underway within the first couple of months. Joker today, my dog, by the way, Joker's my dog. Joker not only got into the trash today that I didn't realize I even left out, he got up onto my kitchen counters, took 3 cookies, a brownie, and some sort of candy bar. Now, this dude's going to be pooping all over the place because dogs are not supposed to have chocolate. But when I tell you the restraint that I exercised, when I simply brought him outside, made him go potty, brought him to his crate, calmly, brought him out to eat again. He wasn't eating right, brought him back in his crate because he was sprinkling his food all over the floor. That type of change in someone does not occur from January 1st to February 1st. It doesn't occur from January 1st to December 31st. You need to truly understand yourself. I mean, if he had done that 6-7 years ago, I would have been like, "Oh my God, how could you? Why do you hate me so much?" You learn over the years that doesn't help. You learn that reprimanding him doesn't help, that doing these things doesn't help. Even the crate training probably doesn't help as much, but it's the only thing I could think to do to just get him in there while I'm cleaning up, right? Big change fast is something that I find not to be super helpful. Now, before we get into this conversation, I usually start off by giving you 3 movies that I think will illustrate the point. And I'm going to be honest with you. I thought about it today and I thought, you know what? Let's change it up a little bit. It's a New Year's resolution. We're going to change things up. No, I went on the web and I found a couple websites that will tell you 2023's most popular New Year's resolutions. This is from a couple different websites are saying this. These are the same. These are the same ones. So the number 1 is exercise more, which is why even Megan and I won't go to the gym anywhere from January 1st to January 5th, right? Because everyone's trying to go to the gym. Eat healthier, lose weight, which I absolutely hate. Eat healthier, do the thing, fix your body, make your body healthy. Don't make losing weight a resolution. Save more money. Spend more time with family and friends. These are some that are super helpful. Now, a lot of these require a ton of effort. It's not one activity that is going to help you get there. You know what I mean? These are not things that are taken easily. So instead of telling you about 3 different movies that I thought would be helpful, I thought I would tell you about somebody, one of my favorite people to read about as a child. You definitely don't know who he is, and if you do, I'm super proud of you and super impressed with you. And I'm gonna just type in top New Year's resolutions again, because I think that there are some other ones. Here's another one, another website from Statista, and we'll talk about the man I want to tell you about, because I want to illustrate the point. Oh my God, why did I click this website? There's all these pop-ups. Stop it. So exercise more, eat healthier, lose weight, save more money, reduce stress on my job, spend less time on social media, reduce spending on living expenses, spend more time with family and friends, and save more money. So they're all pretty similar, right? So here's my question. How many of these can happen overnight? None, right? So I want to tell you, and how many of these can happen in a year? Probably none, right? So I want to tell you a bit about somebody who I just absolutely love. It was actually the 21st anniversary of his passing a year or two ago. This guy's name is Brandon Burlsworth. There's a movie about him called Greater. It's on Netflix. To be honest, I hate it. The articles about him were way better. So I read an article about this guy when I was, in high school. Brandon Burlsworth was a walk-on for the Razorbacks in Arkansas, and then wound up getting drafted by the Indianapolis Colts. And the reason that I like this guy, and I still have copies of this article all over. I mean, I have them printed, I have it saved. This guy was the epitome of a New Year's resolution. And let me tell you why. Okay, you could not mention making a change to this man without him taking it so seriously. He would just make that change. So the article that I love to read about is how he was so regimented and diligent in his militaristic training for himself that he got himself from being a walk-on in our as a Razorback to being drafted in the Indianapolis Colts in 4 years. Do you know how challenging that is? Nobody does that. So there's a lot of stories about this man and how he kind of lived his life, and I love it personally. I love the way he lived his life, but the reason that I tell you about this is because it's nearly impossible to do it, and I'll tell you about his death in a moment. So Burlsworth, for example, they were given stipends every weekend because they couldn't work because they were full-time athletes. They were given stipends every weekend when they traveled to go to the movies, to go get food, and Brandon would never buy himself snacks in the movies. And somebody joked that he was buying Microsoft stock with his money. He was actually sending his money home to do exactly that, to invest for his mom. One coach had told him at one point, you could afford to put on a little bit of weight. He puts on 25 pounds of pure muscle in a summer. Another coach said, you're not fast enough. He starts just running an incredible amount. Another coach says, you could afford to leg lift a little bit more. All of a sudden his leg lift goes up by 150 pounds. This dude, right, is without a doubt one of the most interesting and rigorous men I've ever seen and read about in my entire life. Now, he winds up getting drafted for the Indianapolis Colts. And when on his way home, I believe, from spring break or something like that, he winds up, it was 11 days after being drafted, he was on his way back to his hometown of Harrison after a workout. So a workout with the Colts. His vehicle clipped an oncoming 18-wheeler. And unfortunately, he died. Now, the interesting thing about this is that his mom used to say, watch out for deer in big trucks or something like that. So kind of, foreshadowing for what happened. Why do I tell you about this person instead of telling you about the 3 movies that I typically tell you about in regards to New Year's resolutions? It's a tragic story about this guy, Brandon, right? This guy is one of the only people I've seen. I mean, you read about this all the time. The Rock, Tiger Woods, Michael Jordan. I mean, these people devoted their lives to just training, to being the best, right? Even these folks, these professional athletes, it takes years and years and tons of missed shots to fix something. You don't just fix something. Like Michael Jordan talks about how he had to put on weight took him 2 years to put on weight to be stronger than he wanted to be because he was getting bullied a little bit and he wanted to push the ball out a little bit more as well, right? So this guy, Brandon Bullsworth, takes almost every summer and just completely transforms his body, going from a walk-on at Arkansas to being one of the best players in the world, right? To being drafted by the Indianapolis Colts, right? You have to ask yourself, number one, making a resolution, a year-long commitment with such big change, is that a life you're willing to live? Number two, this man was so exhausted because his life was so challenging because he pushed himself to the upper limits of what a human being can do, that he ultimately fell asleep at the wheel, is what I think, clipped an 18-wheeler, and wound up dying. Is that a little dramatic? Could be. The point of this, as we exit and go from TikTok to Instagram, the point of this conversation is not that we are telling you not to set goals. What I think is the value of this conversation is to not, oh, hey, what's going on, Destiny? We're about to switch over to Instagram, but the shows are on Instagram. We are talking about New Year's resolutions. But the point is that if you want to make a change in your life, giving yourself a year to do it is just simply a terrible idea. Number one. Number two, changes don't happen like that. Like going back to my example with Joker. Now, I was never violent with Joker, right? I definitely reprimanded him quite a bit. And I was aggressive with him. And it took years of a trainer training me, training Joker, because he has high anxiety. It took treats. It took apparatuses. It took a new crate. It took patience and meditation and growth and all these things so that Joker and I can coexist in a way that we love each other. This is not something I would have given myself a year to do. If something is that important to you, you don't give yourself a year to do it. And you don't expect results in a month or two. So that's why I absolutely hate resolutions. So what I'd like to do, if it's okay with you, because I feel like I'm not getting into any interaction now. I don't know if y'all are sleeping or what. It's like if I label my podcast threesomes, like 55 people log in and they want to talk to me about it. I name a podcast New Year's resolutions and y'all are quiet, right? I name a podcast polyamorous cheating with cocaine and y'all are like, let me get in on that. But I talk about New Year's resolutions, which is like something that we should all talk about, right? And everybody's quiet. So here's what I want to do, okay? I'm going to read a little bit about New Year's resolutions and why they don't work, in my opinion. Now, you can fight me on it. I want to hear your debate. Come at me. Let's talk about it. But also, I want to hear about some of your experiences with some resolutions. I want to hear about some of your goals that you have in life. Can you do these things in 1 year, right? Those types of things. So these are the types of things that I want to hear about. So Megan says, I just want to hear you. I just really enjoy listening to you talk. I'm sorry. I can appreciate that, Megan. I love you. It's not just on YouTube as well. If you're on Instagram, feel free to put some comments up. We're here for you. You should be able to hear me. So I'm happy to talk to you about that. So we talked a little bit about Brandon Bullsworth and how this dude is just like the epitome of making lifelong changes. And it's really challenging to do that. Now let's talk about why, in my opinion, New Year's resolutions don't work. Now we talked about, we got my opinion, right? Let's talk about what some of the experts say. So I'm on lifehack.org. They say, here are the couple of reasons that resolutions don't work. They're all about what you think you should do. Ooh, I like that. So they're all about what you think you should do, not what you should do, right? So stop smoking, start exercising, eating healthier. These are all things that sound good on the surface, but typically resolutions is based on what you think you should do. And the reality is there's a lot of things that happen in between I'm going to stop smoking and stopping to smoke, right? For example, why are you smoking? Is your life stressed? Are you meditating? Are you praying? Are you going to work stressed? Are you in a relationship that you need to change, right? These are things that happen slowly before you stop smoking, right? One of the things that, look, I'm always transparent about my life and about my interactions with addiction and things like that. I've been a binge eater my entire life. COVID did not do me any favors. I put on about 30 pounds, and a lot of that was binge eating, right? And it's been something I struggle with. I can't just wake up on January 1st and be like, yeah, I'm going to stop binge eating tomorrow. It's not a thing, right? Why do you binge eat? Well, I'm unhappy in certain parts of my life. I felt like certain things were spiraling out of control. It's a serotonin thing, so I got ADHD medication that helped with my serotonin levels. I mean, I was unhappy with a lot of other stuff. I also was super skinny, so I'm like, shoot, I can afford to binge. Now I'm not super skinny, which is fine. Love yourself, love your body, Bopo for life. But the bottom line is you don't just stop doing something like that, right? You don't just stop smoking overnight, right? Resolutions are like goals, right? Resolutions are like goals, and they're about getting more out of something, right? So the problem is that as soon as you set a goal, you're saying to yourself that you want more than you have. So what ends up happening is they make you feel less than, right? You start looking at how terrible of a person you are, and that's what kind of triggers this goal setting, this resolution, rather than saying, I'm going to take one step towards being something different today. Not that I'm terrible right now. I'm going to take one step towards being something different, right? So, for example, I tell people this all the time who I coach, right? I coach a lot of people who write. I coach a lot of people who are building entrepreneurial ventures, business ventures, right? And they say, it's been 5 years. I haven't built anything. Well, how about this? How about instead of building out your entire business, writing your entire book, why don't you take one step, just one step, towards doing that tomorrow, right? Then take another step. Then take another step. You think I wrote my book in a day, right? I'm on book 3 at this point, right? You think I write these in a day? These are books that take years to write, and it takes minute after minute after minute of pushing myself to do it. 20 minutes a day of writing, right? Mandy says the pressure of failing something gets to me. I shifted to New Year's intentions the last few years, and I found that I give myself much more grace that way. We love that New Year's intentions. I think that's great. If that's not a thing, do you learn that from somewhere, or is that something that you've made up? I love that. Number 3 from Lifehack. There's no motivation or commitment. Over a third of resolutions don't make it past January, and over 3/4 are abandoned soon after. The reason: no commitment. You haven't given yourself a solid reason to do what you're doing. You haven't given yourself solid goals. You haven't given yourself a step-by-step. You simply say, I'm going to quit smoking. I'm going to improve my relationship. I'm going to get a new job. What? Okay, sure. Begin with the end in mind. But then, bro, you got to work backwards, my dude. You got to figure out what the steps are to get to you to where you're going. And that's why self-promotion 101, that's why people need life coaches, right? I use a life coach. I use a therapist. I have a personal trainer. I've got a coach for pretty much everything you could possibly think of, right? The reason that I have these folks is because I know what I want to do. I need someone to hold me accountable. And that's why New Year's resolutions don't work. Mandy says she's sure she read it somewhere. She definitely didn't make it up. That's fair enough. Number 4. This is one of my favorites. The timing's all wrong. Not only are you coming off the back of holidays and getting back to harsh realities of the world, but you see the whole of the year stretching ahead. It's not exactly an inspiring picture. I hate the idea that because it's January, right? It's January. You're just going to make a huge issue with, who you are and make big changes. Dude, make changes all year. I don't care. Make changes for the rest of your life. Change. I say this all the time. If you don't look at yourself 5 years ago and cringe, then you're not living. Like, you're not changing. You're not growing. You're the worst person in the world, right? You should look at yourself from 5 years back and go and cringe, right? Because you're growing, right? You're being an amazing human being. So change all the time. But what? Because it's January? Because you looked at your belly and said, I got a big belly after eating over the holidays, or I'm breathing funny because I haven't exercised, or I had a couple cigars, so I'm never going to have a cigar in my life. You just indulged for like a month. Like, give yourself a break, right? If we started New Year's resolutions in July, maybe I'd feel a little happier, right? So the bottom line is, I'm a big fan. Just forget the New Year's resolution, right? It's to me, it's not a good use of your time. It's just not a good use of kind of what we do. Now, CC, I totally forgot. Are we going on a break right now? Because it's been 20 minutes. I completely forgot about that. And great. So let's take a break. So you're watching WGSN-DB Going Solo Network Radio. I'm your host, Dr. Christopher Salute. You are watching The Barbershop. We are taking a quick break to pay the bills. And unfortunately, on Instagram, we got to let you go as well. Appreciate you and appreciate everything y'all do. But you are watching The Barbershop, and we'll be back in a moment. We're taking a break? Susie? And we're back. Welcome to WGSN-DB Going Solo Network Radio. I'm your host of The Barbershop, Dr. Christopher Salute. Thanks for hanging out with us. We're talking today about New Year's resolutions and why they simply suck and do not work. Hope you're still with me and hope you give me some debate, because so far, everyone I'm speaking to says that New Year's resolutions don't work. However, nearly everybody thinks about new life goals in January, as referenced on Statista.com. So why don't New Year's resolutions work? We talked a little bit about in the first part of the show why they don't work, what's unrealistic about these certain things, the superhuman ability you need to make big change fast. Well, I found this article on Psychology Today called, what's the title? I have to scroll up. The Science of Why New Year's Resolutions Don't Work and How to Use Behavioral Science to Create Resolutions That Do Work. So I'm going to give you a little recap. Basically, let's start with the science of habits. Contrary to popular opinion, it's not hard to change habits if you do so based on science. To change a new habit, you simply have to create a new one. So whether you are changing the existing habit or creating a new one, the scientific method for doing so is the same. In essence, we're talking about behavioral science, right? We're talking about behaviors. We're talking about changing, conditioning yourself to do something else. So bottom line is, you have to pick a small action. So if you Google why resolutions don't work, 95% of the things that are on the first page are New Year's resolutions don't work because they're not realistic or they're too vague. So get more exercise, right? It's not small. Eat healthier is not small, right? So what you need to do is think about what you can do that's actionable. Walk 1/3 more than I usually do. Take the stairs each morning. Have a smoothie every morning with kale. These are relatively small things that you can do that will start to get you where you need to go. Shoot, now I'm thinking about, I should think about some resolutions that some things that I want to do. And am I creating those habits that I really want to create? You've got to attach a new action to the previous habit. So figure out a habit you already have that's well established. For example, if you already go on a brisk walk 3 times a week, adding on 10 more minutes to that existing walk connects the new habit to the existing one, right? So now you're able to do that, right? Megan says New Year's resolutions can absolutely be valuable for giving yourself a blank slate and clarifying your most important goals. Are you just being a kind person and debating with me because that's what I told you to do. I can't tell with you, Megan, if you like to debate or you're being kind and debating with me. The beef with, I'll get to that in a second. Now, they also talk about the science of self-stories, right? The best, and some would say the only way to get a large and long-term behavior change is by changing your self-story. Now, somebody who's famous for this, who I love, who you have to read, Gary John Bishop, one of my favorite authors. He is all about, he has a couple books, Unfuck Yourself, Stop Doing That Shit, a bunch of others, right? And he's all about changing your self-story, meaning stop telling yourself the subconscious things in your head that are these terrible lies that you feed yourself, right? Instead, change your story. So this article says, write your existing story, pay special attention to anything that goes against the New Year's resolution you want to adopt. Now rewrite your story, right? Call these, like, you could do pros and cons lists. You could talk about, what infallibles, right? These are things that are normally getting to you that you can change the script on, right? So that is the science of resolutions and why they don't work. So I thought to myself, let's hit Megan's comment. So New Year's resolutions can absolutely be valuable for giving yourself a blank slate and clarifying your most important goals. So I have some beef with this, and I think you probably did this to be kind and give me some debate. Here's some beef, right? Number one, January 1st does not just give you a blank slate, right? So most New Year's resolutions are eating healthier, exercising more, changing your work habits, all these things. Well, when you get back to work on January 2nd, you're still going to have the same issues that you had with work on December 23rd, right? When you get back to work and you get into the same routine, you're still faced with the harsh reality that you don't love your job. When you're trying to eat healthier, it doesn't just happen overnight because you've got the baggage of not eating healthy, if that's what you were doing for the past X amount of years. Not only that, but you just got over the holidays, all these types of things, right? If you're not exercising, right, you can't just change your exercise habits in one day, in 1 month, in 1 year, right? It takes small changes to do that. And also acknowledging the fact that you come from somewhere. You weren't born on January 2nd, right? So you have these pre-existing triggers, traumas, things in your life that are prohibiting you from doing the thing that you were doing. If that's all it took was to just start with a clean slate, we could just change our behavior all the time. That's not how things work, right? It's like saying, tomorrow I'm going to be a millionaire. When you have $200,000 worth of student loan debt, you've got to clear that debt first, right? It travels with you. These things these habits you've built up travel with you. The only way to change them is to change the narrative and make small changes slowly. Well, maybe not slowly. You could do small change fast, or you could do big change slowly, right? Either way, you're going to get to that goal. So Googling, but feel free to debate. So Googling why most New Year's resolutions don't work, right? It's typically going to be too vague. We fail to pick realistic goals. The goals are not attached to values. Your motivation is going to be external, right? So you don't have an internal motivation to do it, right? You're not saying, I'm going to quit smoking because I'm going to be happier. You're just saying, I want the result and quit smoking. Now, some people can do that, right? Some people can begin with the end in mind and get that done, look at the results and figure it out. But typically, you've got something internal that's driving you to do whatever it is that you're doing incorrectly. So you want to really figure that out. Now, Megan would argue with me on this too, because I am a behaviorist, right? I do believe you can make those changes while you are figuring out what the heck started those bad behaviors. But they have to go hand in hand. You can't just change your behavior because you decided to change your behavior. And also, your behavior is not going to change because you looked into your past and figured out why you did those things. They have to go hand in hand. Now, a lot of people would argue that they need to look at the history to figure out the future. Actually, not true. Most clinical psychologists would tell you, and I'm not a clinical psychologist, so please don't quote me, look it up yourself. Most clinical psychologists would tell you that psychoanalysis, which is the study of your past, actually does not help you change your future. The most effective way to change your future is cognitive behavioral therapy, which would definitely help you get your resolutions on track, right? So I started to look up this morning, and I said, well, if I'm going to tell people not to have resolutions, right, what should I tell them to do, right? Because clearly everybody on the planet is looking at this podcast and saying, this is the czar of all things wonderful as far as 2023 goes. I must listen to this man and all of his wisdom. So I found a website called daringtolivefully.com, and they give us 10 alternatives to a New Year's resolution. What are they? Number one, love these, by the way. Absolutely love. And we'll add Mandy and Megan, because Megan sent me the website. Mandy, if you didn't add if they didn't add New Year's intentions, I'll add that. Megan says, my question would be a semantic one. What's the difference between what you're describing and embracing a symbolic date to start that process towards change? Put that up on the screen again one more time, CC, because I think our readers, Megan's a great communicator and uses words that not everybody can understand on the first try. My question would be a semantic one. Okay, so we're arguing semantics. What's the difference between what I'm describing and embracing a symbolic date to start that process toward change? I'll get to the 10 things in a second. I think there's a couple of problems with that, or a couple of differences. Number one, I don't think we need to pick a symbolic. So to make your argument invalid, I don't know that we need to pick a symbolic date. So I'll give you a great example. I had a good friend who became a vegetarian, or now I think he's a vegan, a couple of years back, and we were at work one day, and I said, so what'd you do, man? Did you just like eat a bunch of steak the night before that you turned a vegetarian, like just get it all out of the way? He goes, no, woke up in the morning, decided I want to be a vegetarian, became a vegetarian. The bottom line is, if you want to do something, picking a symbolic date actually, to me, is a clear example and a surefire way to talk yourself out of something. If you want to do something, you do it, right? Saying I'm going to break up with this man next month because we have a wedding, break up with him, right? Saying I'm going to start eating healthier tomorrow because it's the holidays, cut your carbs today if that's what you want to do, right? I mean, I'm not a big fan of fad diets, but for me, carbs don't work, right? So if change the intake on what you're eating, right? You want to start exercising, you're going to do it tomorrow. Why don't you go for a walk right freaking now? You don't start exercising on July 6th. You start exercising when you've decided that you want to change. And Megan, when you read that book, Unf Yourself by Gary John Bishop, you will see that's one of the things he preaches. Like, why are we stopping to do? So that's number one. Symbolic dates to me don't work. Number two, it's not just the symbolic date. First of all, the date itself is a terrible idea because we've just gotten off a holiday. We've just gotten off of giving gifts and spending money and doing probably all the bad habits that we indulge in throughout the year. We just had a chasm of those things. But also, the two things I would add, number one is that we are trying to make change when everyone else is trying to make change. So we try to go to the gym and we can't go to the gym because every machine is full. We try to go to the health food store. It's jam packed, right? We, all these things. So that's number one. Number two, number 1A, I don't know if you know this, but your serotonin levels actually rise almost the same amount when you talk about a goal versus when you actually do a goal. So engaging in that, what's your New Year's resolution activity and that behavior and that conversation throughout the course of January does one thing and one thing only. And what that does is actually gives you the serotonin that you needed to intake by making that change without doing a damn thing, with having those conversations with a bunch of people. So that's number one. And number two is, I have no beef with saying, you know what, I'm going to make a change this year. A resolution to me has a timeline, right? So it says within the year, I'm going to make this change. Well, there's a lot of factors that go into that. So I don't think it's as easy as saying, I just want to make this change throughout the year. I think it's a question of building better habits and better patterns of behavior that start way before January 1st, right? If you have not done the work before January 1st to get to where you need to be, by December 31st, you're not going to be anywhere, right? So I think people who go into New Year's with a resolution versus people who go into a new year with, I've got some goals in mind, I'm just going to be a better person in general, have probably already done the work of self-awareness and figured this is where I want to be, right? But good question, and feel free to continue and ask some more. So here are 10 things you can do other than make a resolution. And I love this. From daringtolivefully.com. Create a bucket list for the new year. Absolutely. Attend the Olympics. Try ceviche. Finish a book in one sitting. I would love to finish a book in one sitting. Right? Number two, do a monthly 30-day challenge. So maybe it's a declutter challenge 1 month. Maybe it's eating healthy 1 month. Maybe it's doing some exercise 1 month. Maybe it's changing your spending habits 1 month. That's great. Short goals throughout the month, right? Do 12 of those. Love that. Take a yearly challenge. I love this. Every year, Mark Zuckerberg, the founder of Facebook, gives himself a personal challenge for the year. 1 year's challenge was to learn Mandarin. Can I learn Mandarin in a year? I don't know. Can Zuckerberg? Probably. there are a few people in the world who can tell the difference of him being a lot smarter than me, and he's one of them. This year he wants to build a robot. So give yourself a goal. Give yourself something fun that you want to learn throughout the year, a challenge, right? A challenge is a lot different than a resolution, because a challenge you could fail at. A resolution, if you fail at, kind of hurts your self-identity, yeah? Number 4, create a list of things that you want to look forward to. So novels coming out this year by your favorite author that you want to read, a new restaurant that's opening downtown, a season of your new favorite TV show, like Yellowstone, for example. Number 5, decide what to track and measure, right? So if you're going to do resolution, if you're not going to do resolution, right, decide what to track and measure. Number 1, keep a time log, keep a food log, track how I spend my money, track, all these things. It says track my weight. I hate that. I'm deleting that from the website. Number 6, decide on one word for the year, or one phrase for the year. I love that. So here are some ideas for one words that people have chosen before for their year: flourish, discipline, simplify, serenity, fun, excitement, action. I love that. Pick a phrase or a word that is your mantra for the year. Do it right now. Pick it. I'll wait. Tell me in the comments what it is. Reboot an area of your life. I love this. Maybe there's an area of your life that's gone completely off course. You just want to hit Control-Alt-Delete on it, right? Maybe you've gone into debt. You've become disillusioned with your work. Make some changes, right? Reboot that particular area, right? Figure out what you can do. If you're unhappy with your health and the way you've been eating, then go on a detox for 2 days, which I love. By the way, I hate diets. I hate fad diets. I hate weighing yourself. I love a good detox. You give me a solid cleanse. Oof. Feeling great, feeling light, feeling airy. Not a diet, not trying to lose weight. Just want to feel better, right? And it doesn't take all year. It takes 2 days. Doesn't take a lot of planning. You can find an online source, or you can find a recipe. Number 8, take a life audit. I love this. One option for the new year is to take a life audit. How are you doing, right? Are you happy? Give yourself a life audit. And then at the end of the year, audit yourself again and see if things have improved. But don't set a resolution that's going to set you up for failure. Just do the life audit. Number 9, take on a 365-day project. So take a photograph every single day for the year. Write 750 words every day of the year. Wake up the same time every day of the year. Ooh, I would love to wake up the same time every day of the year. I think Megan would have a problem with that on the nights that we stay up a little late. Read a short story every day of the year. Love that. And then number 10, use New Year prompts. Decide what you want for the new year by using prompts. Here are 5 prompts taken from my post, 36 prompts to help you plan an awesome year. 1 habit I'm going to build this year. 1 habit I'm going to break this year. 1 person I'm going to spend more time with this year. 1 thing I'm going to create this year. 1 adventure I'm going to go on this year. See, my problem is not with making change. My problem is also not with making change in a fast manner. My problem is setting yourself up for failure, and that is exactly, in my opinion, what resolutions do. Resolutions are not actionable. They're not attached to anything measurement-wise. There are no metrics. They are unrealistic. They are big change fast. You have nothing of value to attach to this thing. You're doing it while the rest of the world is doing it. You're getting off and getting the excitement of serotonin of discussing these things with somebody versus actually doing those things. And so to me, a resolution is just not an effective way to make change. If you want to truly make change, if you want to truly change your habits, there's one way and one way only to do it. And it starts with being self-aware, understanding what those habits are, and then going through the steps of making that change, whether it be cognitive behavioral therapy, that and a life coach, psychoanalysis, figuring out what it is that drove you to that habit, that drove you to that addiction, that drove you to the whatever the thing was that you started to do, and then replacing that habit with a great habit, right? And that doesn't happen overnight. It doesn't happen in 12 months. It doesn't happen in 1 month. It doesn't happen in a day. These things take years of small change every single day to the point where you can actually quantify that wonderful thing that you've done for yourself. Anyway, it's a little kumbaya for me. So glad that you can join us here on the Barbershop. Tonight's show was on New Year's resolutions and why they simply do not work. You have watched WGSN-DB Going Solo Network. I'm your host of the show, Dr. Christopher Salute. I want to thank everybody for their comments today. If you're not commenting, get on the show. We are at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for the Boy and Girl Show on Wednesday. 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for the Boy and Girl Show on Wednesdays. 10 p.m. for the Barbershop. That's Eastern Standard Time. Get on the show. We're on YouTube. We're on Facebook. We're on Roku. We're on a million other things. Give us your input. We want to hear from you. We want the show to be interactive. I'm sure you don't want to hear from me all the time. Anyway, that is your show for the night. I am your host, Dr. Christopher Salute. This is WGSN-DB, Going Solo Network Radio. This is the Barbershop. Hope you learned something today. I certainly think I did. And that's it. Have a good night. Cut.